What if I told you that the forgotten son of Abraham, often overshadowed by his younger brother Isaac, was destined to father not just any nation, but one that would become mighty and influential, fulfilling biblical prophecies that continue to unfold even today? Ishmael, the son of Hagar, was the firstborn of Abraham, and while most people focus on Isaac as the heir to God's covenant, they often overlook the incredible promise God made to Ishmael. His descendants, the Arab peoples, would play a crucial role in shaping the Middle East, forming nations that still impact the world today. The prophecy surrounding Ishmael is not just a historical curiosity, it is a living, breathing reality that connects directly to the tensions we see in the modern world. Through Ishmael, God promised to make a great nation, and today we can witness the fulfillment of that promise in the global influence of the Arab world. In this video, we will explore the biblical origins of Ishmael, his place in prophecy, and the significance of God's promise to make him a great nation. By the end of this journey, you'll understand that Ishmael is far more than just the other son of Abraham. He's a pivotal figure in God's grand narrative for the nations. Don't forget to subscribe to Deep Bible Stories for more revelations about biblical prophecies that continue to unfold in our modern world. To understand Ishmael's significance, we must first revisit the origin of his story. In Genesis 16, we learn that Sarah, Abraham's wife, was unable to bear children. Despite the promise that Abraham would be the father of many nations, years had passed and Sarah remained childless. In a moment of impatience and frustration, Sarah proposed a plan that would alter the course of history. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go, sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Genesis 16:1-2. Abraham agreed and Hagar became pregnant. But as soon as she conceived, tensions arose. Hagar began to despise Sarah, and Sarah in turn mistreated her. This family tension would only deepen as the story unfolded, foreshadowing the future conflict between the descendants of Ishmael and Isaac. Hagar fled into the wilderness, but God intervened, sending an angel to her with a profound promise. "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers." Genesis 16:11-12. This prophecy about Ishmael reveals much about the future of his descendants. Though he would not inherit the covenant promises given to Isaac, Ishmael was still destined to be the father of a great nation. The reference to Ishmael's wild nature and the hostility that would surround him points to the conflict we continue to witness between the Arab peoples, the descendants of Ishmael, and the Jewish people, the descendants of Isaac. Deep Bible Stories brings you the truth hidden in the ancient texts, unlocking the mysteries of prophecy that affect our world today. Despite the tension and the fact that Isaac would be the heir of the covenant, God did not forget his promise to Ishmael. When Abraham was 99 years old, God reaffirmed his covenant with him. And in the midst of promising the birth of Isaac, God also made a remarkable declaration about Ishmael's future. "As for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and will greatly increase his numbers. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will make him into a great nation." Genesis 17:20. This promise ensured that Ishmael would not be cast aside or forgotten. While the covenant with God would pass through Isaac, Ishmael was still promised greatness in his own right. He would father 12 princes, and his descendants would become a powerful people. The 12 princes of Ishmael are listed in Genesis 25:12-16, and their legacy forms the foundation of many Arab nations that exist today. The descendants of these 12 rulers spread across the Arabian Peninsula and beyond, becoming powerful and influential tribes that shaped the course of Middle Eastern history. But Ishmael's story doesn't end with the promise of nations. The family rift between his descendants and those of Isaac would continue for generations, ultimately becoming a part of biblical prophecy that speaks of the end times. The birth of Isaac in Genesis 21 reignited the tension between Sarah and Hagar, as well as between the two sons. Though Isaac was the child of promise, Ishmael remained Abraham's firstborn. This family feud came to a head when Sarah saw Ishmael mocking Isaac during a celebration, prompting her to demand that Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away. "Get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son, Isaac." Genesis 21:10. Reluctantly Abraham agreed, and Hagar and Ishmael were sent into the desert. But even in their exile, God remained faithful to his promise. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Genesis 21:17-18. Once again, God reaffirmed his promise to Ishmael, but the separation of Ishmael and Isaac marked the beginning of a rivalry that has spanned millennia, manifesting in the conflict between their descendants, the Arab and Jewish nations. This family feud is at the heart of much of the tension in the Middle East today. Deep Bible Stories dives deep into these ancient prophecies, showing how they connect to the conflicts and power dynamics we witness in our world today. Ishmael's legacy extends far beyond the early chapters of Genesis. His descendants, the Arab peoples, have played a pivotal role in history, from the rise of the Islamic Empire to the modern-day political landscape of the Middle East. Many theologians see the rivalry between Ishmael and Isaac as a key to understanding end-time prophecies, particularly concerning the nations that will surround Israel in the final days. In Psalm 83, we find a prophetic passage that speaks of a coalition of nations that will conspire against Israel. "Come," they say, "let us destroy them as a nation, so that Israel's name is remembered no more." Psalm 83:4. Many scholars believe that this coalition of nations includes the descendants of Ishmael, as well as other ancient enemies of Israel. The ongoing tensions between Arab nations and the modern state of Israel are seen as a direct fulfillment of this ancient enmity. Additionally, the book of Revelation speaks of the final battle of Armageddon, where the nations of the world will be gathered against Jerusalem. Many believe that the descendants of Ishmael will play a significant role in these end-time events, standing in opposition to the descendants of Isaac in a final showdown before the return of Christ. This ancient rivalry, born of frustration and impatience in the household of Abraham, continues to shape global events and will culminate in the fulfillment of God's prophetic plan for the world. Today, we can clearly see the fulfillment of God's promise. Ishmael, the Arab nations spread across the Middle East and North Africa, are descendants of this forgotten son. These nations have become powerful, wealthy, and influential, fulfilling the prophecy that Ishmael would be the father of a great nation. From the wealth of oil-rich Arab states to the geopolitical power wielded by nations like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates, the influence of Ishmael's descendants is undeniable. The promise made to Abraham's firstborn son has come to pass, just as God said it would. Yet, the family tension between Ishmael and Isaac, reflected in the Arab-Israeli conflict, remains unresolved and continues to play a pivotal role in world events. But while Ishmael's descendants have become a great nation, the Bible makes it clear that the covenant of salvation rests with Isaac and his descendants. Conflict between these two brothers and their peoples will continue to shape world events until the return of Christ, when God's ultimate plan for peace will finally be fulfilled. The story of Ishmael is one of both blessing and tension. Though often overlooked, Ishmael plays a crucial role in biblical prophecy. From the promise of greatness given to him by God to the ongoing conflict between his descendants and the descendants of Isaac, Ishmael's legacy is deeply intertwined with the prophetic events that are still unfolding today. As we watch the Middle East continue to play a central role in global politics and prophecy, we must remember that the promises of God are always fulfilled, and Ishmael's story is a testimony to that truth.